So I'm here with Mitch Lyons, former Triple Crown winner, meaning you've won the World Individuals, World Pairs, and World Teams in 1 year. Uh, this is now a long time ago, and then probably over the last few years, the chance of you winning another one of these titles wasn't so big. But um, looking back at Europeans, you were very upset not winning, probably. But I could feel there was a lot of positivity as well because you felt the quality of your horse and you felt that you were getting in one with the horse, and I think you've seen and felt the potential of maybe getting close to a win in the future. So even though it was a bitter moment, there was a lot of positive things to take away from that competition.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, coming into that, I wanted to do very well. I wanted to win. Obviously, I hadn't done an individuals on Charlie before. Who I only got like the season before. We had a few issues. Well, he had a few issues coming into it a couple of weeks before, but I think we gave it a good shot in the end. And obviously, I was happy with. Very disappointed, but looking back in retrospect, it was. I think it was a solid performance.
And and I mean, no, now you have like if like all winter to take all the information that you got from this season and from actually riding in individuals and what do you want to do like going into next year to get yourself in an even better position to be successful in one of the big shows.
Uh, Um, Obviously, I came out of European individuals, and I could see the sort of margin. It was fine margins. Obviously, more training on Charlie, familiarise myself more competition time, continue sort of my fitness journey. Obviously, as you know, when you sort of when you start getting, as you were saying, the twilight of your career, you need to, if you want to push for these sort of titles and chances, still, you need to do things that maybe you didn't really think about so much in your late teens and early 20s and things like that. So keep fit and keep sharp and sort of make the adjustments that I felt I need to make from this year.
And I mean, like for myself, like I was always kind of fit, but I was kind of falling apart a little bit towards the end.
Mhm.
And how is that for yourself? Are you still like kind of still fit and ready to go? You just have to put in a little bit more effort in order to be as fast and as agile as you were 10 years ago, or do you struggle with a few issues as well?
Like I've rolled a few ankles here and there, but like I think I'm pretty good. I run 2 marathons last year. I've kept that fitness now, and I've got another two booked in for next year. And I'm keeping on top of the fitness well. Like at the minute, I'm going in the gym 5 times a week, and so I'm pretty good. And I haven't really got any major niggles or major problems. So I would say at this point, I would say I'm probably as fit as I've ever been in my games career. So yeah.
I mean, I used to remember that you were like the Paddy Pimlet of modern games. So after the season,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
throw
yeah.
up a little bit, and then you kind of had to get yourself ready and lose a lot of weight. Like what made you change? Because at the moment you look fit, even though it's off season.
Yeah, well, I think maybe certain things that in your like early to mid 20s, things might have been slightly easier. And then I felt maybe I hit a bit of a lull, sort of maybe from 26 to sort of like 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, maybe of like, I think like finding it real hard, like waking up on Monday morning after a competition and feeling like I've been hit by a bus. Um, and feeling like maybe I was done. But I think it's not so much that. I think it's you can't get away with these things that you could once get away with. So obviously, like going into this season, I came in very fit, and I felt like. I obviously kept very fit. Like even during the European individuals, I was running because I was in a training block for a marathon I did in October. So, even in like I was riding and then jumping off and doing like 12, 13, 14K and stuff like that. So, but I finished the European individuals this year, and I didn't have one ache, one pain, nothing. And prior to that, where maybe I haven't kept myself so fit, I've struggled to walk on a Monday. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah, but it's good to it's good to see that if you're adjusting to the age and to the to the wear of the body, that you're still able to do it and feel good.
Yeah, it gets to a point like you would have felt it yourself, like you just can't. You I mean, obviously, maybe you're more of 110% professional. I've taken it seriously through the years, but like you say, probably in the off season, I let myself get a bit chubby and that, and you need to get on top of that at some point. And I think I've got a good chance at doing well, and I've got a good horse in the next sort of few years while I'm still able. So that's what I'm coming for.
So as you mentioned this horse, and I want to come back to the horse itself, a conversation that we never had because we didn't meet over the last few years is I was always surprised that you took the decision to let Chico go and then obviously buy a new horse and try to go back to winning on this new horse. Like, what made you decide to say, okay, it's been enough with me and Chico? Because Chico is a great horse with all the potential. Uh, what made you take that decision?
Like I rode Chico. I got him as like a complete novice in games back in the end of 2014. So I had him for quite a few years. I won a lot on him. I won two British individuals, multiple British pairs, all sorts of things like world pairs, world teams. And I just felt like obviously I had two kids on the way as well, and I just sort of thought to myself, I wanted to like step back a little bit, and then obviously I let lease him, Sam Hopkins lease him, and then I just sort of thought to myself, uh, you know, well, Charlie was up for sale, and then I just got talking to Jake, and then it just spiraled, and then I ended up getting him.
I mean, I think with Chico, probably from watching, because I've never ridden him myself, from watching he would be a horse that would like he wouldn't be the most comfortable ride, and especially with the vaulting. Like the vaulting is very heavy on the body anyway, but he wouldn't he would be a bit awkward, and I think he's probably a horse where you need to be very fit, but you would always need to have the timing right, so you need a lot of practice. Whereas there's other horses where that wouldn't be the case. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, and like Chico's hard. Like you see how good Sam is, and Sam does awesome on Chico. But like you can also see even with Sam riding Chico at points that it's not always plain sailing. And I always found with Chico, depends on the day. It really depends on the day. Like I feel like one day I could go into an individuals and I'd be really really hard to beat, and then maybe another day I'd go into the same one and he would just be slightly different, and it would just make everything more difficult. But yeah, I had some great competitions on him, and I think it gets to a point like I felt the same thing on Ellie when I sort of stepped off Ellie and let Amy. I could have continued riding her, but I think after a while, like I like a bit of a new challenge, and try and do it on a different horse.
So the next one, obviously, Charlie was previously owned by Jake. Jake had to give up the sport because of the injuries, but he wanted somebody to have the horse that has a chance of maybe achieving what he wanted to achieve on the horse, which is basically winning world individuals. And he's had very high hopes for the horse. So going into next year, we have the world individuals in Lumülen. and a place where you have good memories. I remember in 2016, you were on the English team winning the European Championship in Lumülen, and you went on to go to Denmark and win the World Pairs as well, like a week later. So I think this is probably a good time in your career. Um, like looking towards next year, and obviously all the other shows, what have you planned to do next year? What is in your sight?
I mean, well, the dates, obviously the dates have all come out, and I'm sure that obviously I know you're well aware because you posted them and you're involved and everything. You know, for me, my team's going to Champions League early season, which is something we haven't done in a long time, but
Yep.
you know that's one trip abroad. I I think above all, like European individuals is going to be my main target, and then I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Outside, I think I'd love to do world individuals, but I've also got a bit of a thing like I want to make a world team. I want to make another English world team if I could get selected. So if I got selected for that, then I would probably do world teams and European individuals. But if I don't get world teams, then maybe world individuals. I don't know. The dates aren't really favourable to it for me, to be honest.
No, it's very difficult. And I think for the future we'll have to make sure that's not as dense as it is right now. Um, I think what we're gonna do with Le Bond is that we will finish some age groups on the Saturday, and those age groups will be starting at European individuals, and then we will have age groups that will be running to the Sunday, and they will be starting on the Thursday. So there's a lot of time to kind of travel from Lumülen to La Bonne, and then there's enough time to rest as well.
Because what
But
is
I
it?
guess go ahead.
Because what is it? It goes world individuals straight to Europeans to world teams to world pairs.
Yeah. And I think for the ones that are kind of selected for world teams, they will probably not ride in the European on the same horse, but they could ride in the world individuals.
Mm.
And I mean, I think at the end of the day, one have to wait until the selection is finished, which is probably in May for most teams, and then people have to decide. But I think it's going to be a very like intense IMGA season in the summer, and it's going to be very interesting. But for me, when I'm looking at the competitions last year, obviously I wasn't on the showground itself at Europeans and world teams, but I was there for world individuals, and looking at the field of world individuals, there was still uh, yeah, a different level of quality in the competition of the world individuals last or this year than what it was in European individuals. So I think whoever is going like usually, there's some people that kind of put their mind to winning world individuals, and it's usually the stronger competition. Um, so having that in mind, like, would that matter for you? Like, does it matter how you approach a competition, depending on who is in the competition, or does it not really? Like, for me, it would make like a big difference because if I would be riding, I'd always be kind of looking who is in the competition, and then I would know for myself whether I have to push to the absolute limit, or if I had to be a little bit more precise, or it make it would make a big difference in how I approach the competition. Would that be the case for you?
Well, like actually to the preparation or once you're actually there.
Yeah, I mean both. Probably, yeah, both.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, like in my mind, if you enter the competition, like you can only ever beat who's in front of you. So I think for the actual preparation for the competition, you just got to prepare for. I'd just personally, I'd try and prepare to be my best possible. And then obviously when you're in a competition, I mean, like I'm not a great heat rider. Like I don't know why, and I never have been. I struggle in the heat, so for me, it's mainly just like, yeah. I mean, you probably even saw it in European individuals this year, but that was mainly because I'd hardly ridden Charlie in 2 weeks due to some issues. But like wouldn't say I was struggling, but just it sometimes takes me a minute just to get going, and then by the time the semis come and then the finals come, all's good then. But yeah, I would approach most of them the same, but obviously by the time you get to the final, it's slightly different then.
And what we had in 2025 was that there was a few riders that had not been riding in the Champions League, which was the week before World Individuals. And obviously there was a few riders that did ride in the Champions League, which was like the same showground, the same equipment, and you had kind of felt the intensity of the Champions League, which kind of prepared yourself to ride in the World Individuals a week after. And when I'm looking back at that, it seemed to me that the riders that did both competition did better than the ones that kind of got into the competition later, the ones that only did World Individuals. So I think, even though it might seem tough on the horses to do both competition, which means World Individuals and European Individuals, I think probably um, it's probably a good idea to get yourself like really ready for the intensity. If it like especially if you're aiming to do well in the European Individuals. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, especially like in that scenario, because that's going to be like same showground, similar atmosphere, same equipment. So you're going to have like a massive advantage there if you did Champions League. I mean, obviously, Eleanor, Rory both did Champions League, and they both came first and second. So I mean, that says it all, really.
Yeah, and also like Florian, who came
Yeah,
third
yeah.
as well. But then like Francois, for example, who did really well in 2024, he had stepped out of the Champions League to fully focus on world individuals, and it seemed like he was like he had a hard time, like, yeah, just dealing with the intensity. Also in the semis, you could see the difference in between the riders that had done both and the ones that didn't. And I think, you might remember, I'm not sure if you do, but I think it's a little bit of like a bias or something that people say like the world individuals is very hard on the horses because nowadays it's mostly riding a session a day. So that's 7 races for the first 3 days, and then you have the semifinal with 8 and 10 in the final. Whereas when I was a junior, and even though in my first few years in the Opens, the World Individuals would be a run on 2 days, which means on the second day you would have the third session semifinal, and just a few hours after the semifinals you'd have the final, and the horses would be exhausted by that time. And I think people still have that in their mind, but to me, actually, like a World Individuals is not more difficult than a Champions League.
Yeah, for sure. Like British individuals, like that was always the same. You'd have like it was a 2 day competition. You'd have like Saturday you ride twice, and then Sunday you might ride at like 10 a.m. for a session, and then midday for an 8 game semi, and then like 2 o'clock for like a 10 game final. Then you'd be just like crazy tired, and the horses are crazy tired. So, but now, yeah, for sure, it's a lot easier on the horse and the rider when it's spread over a longer period.
I mean, I think it makes sense to spread it out. Like the back in the days, like 2003, 4, 5, it was even more dependent on the quality of the horse and the stamina of the horse who was going to win in the end, because some of the very like heavy muscle horses, they were just having a hard time kind of getting their muscles to move the end of the competition, and they would lose all their agility and speed because they had just done too much kind of. And I
Yeah, and
think that's
yeah, and had you put the final like a day later, you might have even had different winners like many times.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You may remember from 2017, when I won, and that was not even like 3 sessions on a day, but it was semis and final. And when
That
I
was on the
was
chestnut, wasn't it?
yeah, when I was coming around the top turn, Craig was ahead, but his pony at this time was tired, and mine wasn't. And even though his pony would usually always come home ahead of me, it was so tired that it just didn't have the speed. And this was a usual picture at World Individuals. The horses just wouldn't be fast on the way home because they were so tired. And I think it's good that we are past it, but I think people still have it in their mind that it's very difficult for the horses to do world individuals, but I don't think it's more difficult. Like if it's 10 races, it's not so difficult. If you look at normal competition on the weekend, you do something like 16 to 20 races a day, and now it's 10 max. So
No, no, I don't think it's too much. No, not at all.
and so at the end of the day nowadays, like, well, you haven't competed in world individuals too frequently, but nowadays it's I think it's not so much about the speed, the stamina of the horse. It's a little bit more about the speed and returns, and it probably gives, yeah, puts you in a good position. So like on Charlie, like where do you think like his strengths are? Like the ones where you can really rely on when you're going into a world individuals.
You know, like I've only done one individuals on him, so like everything at Europeans this year was like new. You know, um, where with my obviously he's very fast. He maybe hasn't got the same sort of electric turn as Chico, but like flatline pace, he's got a lot. You know, and he also looks quite. He looks like quite a lot, but he's actually not, in the sense that like he might be dancing around a bit and head in the air, but then he'll come back. So he's easy to like dunk on and lean on, and I think especially sort of like to the middle of this season to the end of this season, like started to get like a lot better control of him. So being able to push hard, come right back. Um, but yeah, I think just generally being able to do like pretty much all the games to like a real strong fast standard now. So I haven't really, I'd say at this point now, I haven't really got many weak games. Whereas at the start of this year on him, I would have had quite a few weak games, and even on Chico, there were games that were like almost like bad games. Whereas on Charlie now, obviously there was a little bit of issue with the vaulting. You know, he stopped running, but I think it's got a lot better now. Well, it definitely has got a lot better now, and even since individuals, it got a lot better. So I don't think
Can
there's
you
like
can you explain like what the problem was and how you kind of approached the problem?
but he just stopped running. Like when I first got him last year, and I think it was partially my fault, because I think it was mainly my fault actually, because I I I got him just before spring champs, and I took him to spring champs, and everything was good, and I think naturally. He hadn't done a competition since I think Ben rode him into counties the year before, and I think maybe I let him run a bit too fast, and maybe I was a bit too aggressive on the ground, because I know that like Jake sort of jumped off a bit more and just sort of let him flow a little bit, and I think I sort of like hit him up a little bit and got him a little bit. I don't know. There was just like after I'd say the first competition, he just had a bit of a mental block on top vaults. So like I'd jump off, everything be fine, like pick up the equipment, and he'd just freeze, and just freeze, and then run down, nothing, run down, and then he'd just go. And then he started sort of running a bit blind for the vault, not like left or right, just you know when you could jump, you know when a pony like he wouldn't want to run, and then he would just run like flat out. Um, so then over the winter, I just didn't bother training the vault, because everything I was doing was just not really helping. So I just didn't. And then I brought him back this season, and then just started like um, just letting him do his own thing on the ground, just not getting off quite as fast. And gradually, as the season's gone on, it went on. He just started coming around more and more, and and sort of got back into it a lot better.
So so you had already mentioned that you were going to Champions League, and obviously Champions League I think is a very good competition. It seems like for some reason the sessions are quite poor, but somehow that's what the teams need to find their rhythm, and then the finals are really mind blowing. Um, yeah, I'm happy to hear that you are going because it obviously raises the quality. What made your team decide that this is the year that you're actually gonna go?
Um, I don't know really. Like, uh, obviously we qualified and we haven't been in a long time, and see the standard looks good, and obviously Eleanor went last year and she rode with Leicester Yellow because Eleanor's in our team. Um, so we just sort of thought like, why not, and we'll just go and do it.
And what do you think you will be competitive?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I think so. We got a like if we're riding well, we got a good team. We got a very good
Yeah,
team.
I think so. Yeah, but like it's a difficult competition. Like it's very intense, like but very early in the season, so sometimes it's just a little bit overwhelming for teams. And by the time they kind of find their rhythm, the one or two teams that are just far ahead, too far to catch.
Yeah, no,
But
like my
I'm
team.
looking
If
for
we're Yeah, like
go ahead.
my team, if we're riding well, when we're riding together, like obviously we've got a new member for next year, so obviously we haven't ridden together yet, but I think we've got good quality. We're always up there to like come first, second, third, like with Monmouth and Berkshire and Leicester Yellow. So I don't see why we couldn't give it a good run.
And who will be on your team?
So myself, Eleanor, Rosie Brick, George, and Finn.
Right, yeah, that seems to be competitive. And no, I think Champions League is going to be exciting. Over the last 2 years, the Italians didn't come for mm, because they had clashing competitions, I think. So it was difficult for them to come, which obviously, well, didn't help the competition because I think the Italians today are, yeah, very good and they bring three or four top level teams. So it's good to have hopefully Italians back, but also a few fresh eyes from England. So like at the moment, like if you're looking through the field of top level competitors, um, how do you think like the world individuals and European individuals will turn out if all the top riders are coming? Who do you think are at the moment the most riders with the best momentum?
Well, like individually.
Yeah, like yeah, individually, yeah.
Obviously, I've done European individuals this year, but prior to that, I think the last world individuals would have been Aston Wells 2022. Is that right? Or 21, 22? It's when you were on Mark Devitt's top
Safira,
home. Yeah, what year was that?
22, 22.
22. 22, 21. So I haven't been to world individuals in 3 years. But obviously, you know, you've got Colin. Depends what Colin's going to do. Um, but Colin. Has he ridden Star in individuals recently? Because I know he didn't last year, and then the year before he rode the Chestnut, didn't he?
So the last time he rode Star was 23 when
Mm.
Lucas won.
Blue and Lucas won at Le Bon, yeah. So top riders, I don't know. Obviously, it depends what Colin's doing. I don't know what Lucas is doing. Florian, I've seen him on that coloured pony. That looks pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Like so, and obviously he won European individuals last year. Um, obviously Eleanor, Rory. Um, yeah, I don't know who else is there.
So so
Jamie.
yeah, with Jamie, we don't know exactly what horse he will be on, but I think after a season like this for Jamie, it's either you're gonna give up or you're gonna come. come back, like, trying to make it a third Europeans or a first world individuals, I guess, like, because he was he was chasing to be successful for a long time and he achieved it. So I think either he's not coming back, but if he's coming back, he's probably going to be competitive, I guess. Um, there are rumors that for maybe for you it's a fact, but for me it's a rumor. That Sam Hopkins is on a new pony for next season. Um, and what I've heard is that the horse is going to be Sparky. You know Sparky probably pretty well. I know her well because I was able to ride, and I think it's an absolute uh, like a really really good horse. And how do you think that's gonna turn out? Like, is will he be able to, like, within the first season on the horse to challenge for the big title, to challenge Eleanor Collin for World Individuals?
Yeah, Sparky's a very good pony. Sparky was at my house for, I don't know, over a year, 2 years when Katie had it,
Yeah,
and I rode it at competition. Um, it's hard to say. Like, obviously, you see Sam this year at European individuals, and Jamie won, but Sam was very very strong. Like, you can't deny that. I mean, Jamie won and he won, so you can only beat who's in front of you. But if Sam was in the final, I don't know. Obviously, I think he would have had a very good chance of winning. You can't say, you don't know. Um,
no, it's like you don't know, but like the quality that Sam showed in the session, if he would have been able to bring that into in the final, it would have required a very different performance from Jamie to win. That's my
yeah,
view.
yeah, 100% agree. But then again, Sparky isn't boy. But I think I've seen videos of him training and that, and Sam's a very good rider, and Ian
Yeah.
knows what he's doing and whatnot. So I could he win or not? I don't know. But would he be up the top? Then of course he would. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously next year World Individuals is in Wales. I guess that would be at least one of the milestones to kind of win World Individuals at home in Chepstow. But I think, well, that's for me personally. I think you have to go to those top level competitions as much as you can, because that's the only thing that can really prepare you for the moments that are in a final. It's we've seen it with a lot of riders that are very talented on very good horses that haven't won a World Individuals, and they look great until the final. But then in the final, there's just something about them that, yeah, it's a little bit different. It just, I mean, you might have experienced it yourself, 2022, for example, where the final was just a disaster. Um, but I think it's important to go and challenge yourself as much as you can, because only that will maybe, yeah, give you the information that you kind of need in order to change a few things to be actually ready to win.
Yeah, I mean, and then going back to Sam, like you're only gonna see with time how he is on Sparky, but I'm sure he's gonna be about there anyway, for sure.
No, I think it's a very, like, it's a very interesting combination, and I wouldn't be surprised if he can already this season challenge, the best for the world individuals or the European individuals,
No, I would agree. I would definitely agree.
if that's what he's chasing. So, Mitch, like, for your, I mean, obviously you were very successful coming from a junior going into the opens, like the first, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 years in the opens, you were very successful. In your second year in opens, you won Triple Crown basically, and 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 then afterwards, it was kind of very difficult to achieve the same result. Like, but you seem like you see determined. You seem determined to be able to win again. And can you maybe just take us through the years, because I think Jamie has done that for us as well, and actually he ended up being successful after 10 years of not winning. He returned to win the European individuals, and I'm sure that's what you are aiming for, like to win another one of those big ones. Like, just take us through the years now that you can take a step back and look back what you have kind of experienced, like the roller coaster that one experienced after being so successful in your first few years.
What, so like year to year of maybe why it didn't go so well or whatever else?
Say that again.
What sort of like year to year sort of like what happened or why I didn't do
No, I
so
mean,
well?
what I've realized is like very often well, in like 10 years ago, yeah, it was normal that the riders that came into the opens uh were really successful, like the good ones. But then through the years where Colin and I won world individuals for, I don't know, almost 10 years in a row, uh, it seemed difficult for young riders to make it. And through the years, the level seemed to have risen so that it's difficult for young riders to win anything in the first few years. You've seen it with Eleanor, and Eleanor was always a super talented rider, but it
Yeah,
took a few years for her to get used to the absolute top level. You've seen it with Ben when he came from juniors to opens, and now we're seeing it with Sam. And but when you're like so young and you're winning it all, like it's probably not so easy to have the same drive to keep winning. I mean, at least that's what we hear from a few people. Like if they are able to step back and see at their career and they realize, okay, I was very successful, and I didn't know that actually some of it was also the luck of having a good horse and things falling together. And then maybe a few years later, I realized, okay, this is what I actually have to do to stay the top or to get back to the top. That's sort of
yeah. I mean, I think obviously like when I came up from under 17s into open, I had Ellie, so I came up on like a top open pony. Like my last year of under 17s, I came second. And then obviously I came second my first year of open to you, which, like I didn't even know who you were at the time. Like I was out in Denmark, I was 18, I was getting drunk every night. I was getting drunk the night before the final. I like went into the final like really hungover, and I came second, and I was like, whoa, um, maybe if I take it seriously next year, I can win. And I took it seriously next year, and I won. But that will happen quite easy. And then the year after, I didn't ride Ellie, and maybe subconsciously I didn't want to lose on her, because I'd won on her, and you maybe feeling them sort of pressures, so I didn't do it on her. And then I did it back on her in 2016, and it was down on the grass, and I won my first session, and we had a really tough second session. It was like me, you, Craig. I think it was like Ollie May who actually got in the final. And I did well in that session, but I think we really spread the points. Um, and then my last session, I think I got about two off max, and then I ended up having a tie break with Mackenzie in 5 flag, and there we are. That's that done. Um, but I think maybe sometimes when it like for me it came really easy initially in open, not easy, but you know uh, I didn't have to try like maybe I've had to try since to get anywhere near. Um, and then obviously on Chico, like Chico's an amazing pony, and I've done really well at British level. And I feel even if I managed to put some of them performances into like Europeans and world individuals, I probably would have won one or two. But for whatever reason, like because like I think even like the level of competition at some of the British that I won on him, like would be against like Ben Hopkins and Sades on Nessa and stuff, and being able to like and Bradley and people like that, and being able to beat them, like beat them well even. And then for whatever reason on Chica, I couldn't quite manage to do that same performance at like a European or Worlds. Um, but yeah, but then in that time, like in the last sort of 10 years, the pace has changed a lot, as obviously back in the days of like when you won quite a few. What was that like 2015, 16, around them sort of times?
Yeah.
What was your pony called? Villia.
Yeah.
You know, like amazing pony. But imagine if nowadays, like you come up against some of these ones in Carton and like Bottle Shuttle, it's like you couldn't even imagine to compete. Whereas then, like, okay, you wouldn't have beaten Ellie or Blue or someone like that, but like you would have been maybe fourth or something like that, and you probably would have done some inside turn in Carton. Um, yeah, I think the pace has changed and accuracy and pace and all them sort of things. But I feel like on Charlie, like I'd have like a better mixture of accuracy and pace and control than I probably would have done in a long time.
And I think, I always, want to encourage people to kind of to accept that when you're getting to the opens and you may have won world individuals or world pairs and juniors, that they have to kind of accept that it'll take a few years until you'll be successful again, unless you're like you're the next superstar. But for most people, it's a bit of a struggle coming into the opens today. But I think it's normal, and it just shows that our sport has developed. And I would always say that if you're willing to push through the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, then that will develop yourself as a personality. You get more resilient, and you take the difficult challenge in life. Do you agree?
Oh, for sure, 100%. But you seem to get a lot of young riders now. They're like, I don't know. I just don't think in GB anyway. There's so many younger riders that really stick with it for so long and are really pushing in. I mean, obviously you see it a lot more the other countries, but in England, I don't know really. Like, I don't think our sort of we haven't got so many young riders seem to stick it out and really keep pushing up into the opens. Not as many anyway.
No, but I think I mean, I guess there is a reason behind it, and probably, but at least some of it is related to that when you're a junior, like winning is a little bit easier. So everybody has won,
Mm.
and then people kind of when they come to the open, they are not winning anymore. But winning is like winning trophy or red rosette is great because you're happy when you do it. But at the end of the day, like I think the development that you can make when you accept a difficult challenge is a big win. But so I want to encourage people, to keep going, and to see where your boundaries really are. And you see it with Eleanor, you see it with Sam, you see it with a lot of people, is that it takes a few years to get to the top in the opens, but you can do it if you try, kind of.
So what I was going to say earlier, going back to sort of the younger age groups, is probably a bit of an unpopular opinion, but for me, like I don't think that keeping riders in under 18s for that long is a good thing. Like when we were younger, we went from like 17 and then we went into opens. What do you think?
And I would agree. Um, and if you're looking back, and I have mentioned it earlier, if you're looking back in the history books, and I'm just using that as a fact to kind of uh, make my argument stronger, is in in 26, Chloe Golding won World Individuals when she was 16. A year after, I think 27, Janie Sermon won in her first year of Opens. 28, I won in my second year of Opens. Then was Janie Sermon in her third year of Opens who won again. And it was Colin won in his first year of Opens. You won in your second year of Opens. So most of the riders through that period, they won in their first year of Opens, and I think it's because they were peaking, like they are physically peaking at that time, and maybe also they are bringing in not too many thoughts, right? Not so complicated. If you're an older rider that has failed on the stage, then you might be thinking through stuff too much. But when you're young, you don't do that. And I think by changing the age groups from under 17 to under 18, um, it's yeah, it kind of takes away the chance for people to fully develop, because there is not so much of a challenge in their last year of under 18s. Whereas if they would have to compete against the opens when they are still under 18, I think they would be able to make bigger steps forward than what they do right now.
Yeah, I just think at 18, like you're an adult. You're ready to push forward, and I think a lot of the time staying in under 18s, which obviously was under 17s for the extra year. I just don't think it like it brings anything to your riding. Like you said, like my first year of Open, which I would have actually still been in under 18s. I came second to you, and then the next year I won. But I think if you stay in under 18s, you're gonna stay back at that sort of level. I mean, and what's the Italian lad called? He just
Yeah,
won.
Filippo Teresco, I was thinking about that too. Yeah.
You know,
So
like
the Italian rider Filippo Toresco, he went to win world individuals in an outstanding performance this
hmm,
May against Cody, and then he challenged himself to go into the open Italian individuals, and again he won fairly easy. Like
just
he
proves the
won
point.
with one race to go, and it just shows, obviously it's a great horse and a great rider. Like, they wouldn't be like they have a little bit more talent than others, but
Nice. Yeah, yeah, of course.
I think it proves the point. And if you're looking at a lot of talented riders in the UK, they used to ride in the opens, even though they were still under 17 or under 18. And you can see with Cody that obviously, as successful as Monmouth has been this season, that it's no problem for them to compete in the opens. So I think maybe we have the chance in the future to turn the wheel back and bring back the under 17. I just think it's very difficult because, a lot of parents want their kids to basically stay in under 18 for another year because it'll add more titles.
Yeah, they obviously just don't want to miss a good opportunity for their child to get a world title. But like if like I sort of mentioned to you off camera earlier, like if I could go back to sort of 2013 world individuals when which would have been my last year of under 18s, would I have won? Quite possibly I would have won, but I came second to you in Open, which I think done me a world of good for like 2014. Like it sort of really like it done a lot for my confidence as well. Like, okay, I can do this in Open, and it's like a big step forward. Whereas I think if I stayed in under 17, like under 18s for that year, I would probably would have gone to Chepstow the next year, and I wouldn't have had that same level of confidence. And as well for anything for world pairs that year, for world teams that year, like that would have been my first year in Open. I would have just been sort of acclimatizing. So I think that extra year is quite important in like your transition into Open.
Yeah, and I think if you look at how many people are like kind of leaving the sport when they should be entering the opens, I think that was not the case prior to the change. So I think, obviously this is a bit of a hypothesis because you would have to make the change to actually see whether that is the case or not. But
Mm.
if you're looking at the stats, one can make the argument that the under 17 was more useful for the riders' development, but also for the development of the sport because we lose riders that way.
No, I would 100% agree. Yeah, for sure.
I think, our sport for the last 10, 15 years has developed in terms of the quality of the top athletes, but the sport itself hasn't changed much. And I think that's something that we need to work on, and we are working on as Mounted Game Studio. That for the junior riders when they hit the opens, but also for the open riders, that we need to deliver riders something that they can get excited about. When you were a young rider, you'd come to the open, and even though you were successful, there were still a lot of things you haven't seen that you haven't pride, in terms of, Champions League was a new competition that came around. You may not have ridden in the Scandinavium, so there's always, things to look forward to. And I think that's something that we have to keep pushing for, that we have things that people are excited about. And that's what, we want to do with Lumülen, is that, in the past, when you ride a World Individuals, you'd be riding in front of your family and friends and some of the competitors' families and friends. But we want to make that competition that when you're riding into your final, you imagine yourself being in the warm-up ring, and to get from the warm-up ring, you have to ride through the crowd like in a boxing match to get the arena, because there's so many people that are going to be there to watch you ride in the final. And just imagine you have a few thousand people kind of cheering for you or your opponents, how that atmosphere is going to be. And obviously, if we're able to attract people, there's a lot of things that come with that. And I think, that's what we want people to get excited about, because most of us top athletes, we've ridden in the Royal Welsh Show, or we've ridden in Hoys when we were kids, I don't know, or the Gothenburg Horse Show, and it's just very different if there's a big crowd that is actually participating in the competition. And for some reason, our sport was more developed like behind closed doors of showgrounds, and I think it's a big chance to change that, and I hope we can get people excited about it, because most likely, like, I'm very excited to bring that to the riders, because I was never able to see it, but I don't know why. Like, I don't know why our sport shouldn't be in front of big crowds. When we have a world championship, I think that we should be riding in front of thousands of people that are kind of cheering for us. And when we take our parade, we should parade in front of a big stand, and people that cheer us on. And I think that would be something that will lift the sport.
Yeah, I did a London. It's called like the London show this year. Is at like the Arabs World Tour in central London at Royal Chelsea Hospital. That was pretty cool, and I don't know if you saw any of the
Yeah.
videos and that. And then I think next year apparently we've been invited back for like the full weekend, so that'd be really good, like really good exposure in that as well. So that was a good thing to be part of. And
Yeah,
they seem very interested, very interested in getting us back and watching, and like I think they put a lot of stuff on their like their social media and that after. And things like that are only going to be good to sort of push the sport and get people interested.
and I think, it seems like the sport is very intuitive for spectators to watch. Like, it takes maybe a race for them to kind of tune in, but once you've done the first race, like, everybody on the stands is kind of in one way or the other cheering for somebody that they might not know, but they are getting involved. And I think this is very different if you're watching dressage or even show jumping. You're not allowed to do anything until they have finished. And even then, it's more like a passive clapping rather than really like cheering for somebody as you would do in a football stadium. And I think, I mean, at least for me, it was always like very enjoyable to ride in front of a big crowd.
I think I don't know how it is in Germany, but I think in like England or like the UK, when people hear like mounted games, they think of like Gymkhana, Egginsbury, like they're people a lot of the time they think of it like kind of like a bit comical, like a children's sort of thing. And I
Yeah.
think maybe that's why it doesn't really get the sort of recognition, because people, they see it like maybe as like a stepping stone towards like, oh, but people do mounted games before they go on to show jumping or dressage, and they don't see it as like as like like the finished product, like we're doing this for this is what we do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But if you would interview somebody in the stands at the Royal Welsh, that's not what they would say, right? It's the
Of
people
course
that
not.
don't know.
Of course not.
It's the people that haven't really seen the finished product. So it's really about, it's our job to show it to people.
Exposing it, yeah, for
And
sure.
so, Mitch, thank you very much for giving us some insights in your past life and the future. I personally really hope that we'll get to see you in the World Individuals, because you are a rider that you're showing the emotion, and it's easy to kind of emphasize with you, and kind of to kind of, for me it's like I enjoy whoever's winning, because every winner has a right to win, and there's happiness with every win. And I think, but you're one that is really like emotional when you're riding, and this is something that is really important, because it shows a different side of equestrian sports that people might not be used to. And I think I hope that we'll see you in Lumülen to come over the line first, and shouting and screaming and punching the air a few times. And if it's not gonna be Lumülen, then I'm sure we're gonna follow you with the Mounted Game Studio and the Europeans, or maybe World Teams. So thank you for today,
I'm
and
sure
best
you
of
will.
luck.
Thank you very much. Cheers.